Hello, today I'm going to be making the Chapel of Zenith for my game Quest for the Eye. As you can see, it's a new Blender scene that I've got up here, and this is my reference image of something I'm going to go for. So the chapels are going to look very similar to this, so I'm just going to use this as a bit of a reference. So what I'm going to do now is get rid of everything in here and make a new cube. So this cube I'm making sure is 2 meters. Just so I can go as a reference for this point. So it's going to be about a 6-foot person roughly. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this and then start editing it. So I don't want it to be that thick, so I want it to be about that. And I'm going to bring it out to about here roughly. Because it's going to have these little bits come up. So this is kind of that sort of shape. I'm going to bring these out in a little while. But first I need to make the top part. So I'm just going to extrude that out. And I'm going to bring that up to about here roughly. And going to bring it in. Just so it makes that kind of shape. Now before I do I could do the bottom bit before I did the extrude on the sides. This is the bit I'm probably going to do. So let's go into just extrude these sides. But first, what I want to do, put a divide down the center, because I'm going to mirror modify it. Makes life a little bit easier. Just make sure that I've got everything selected. Going to delete the faces, and I'm just going to mirror it. Just so whatever happens on this side happens on this side, and it makes the whole process a lot faster. So after selecting that, I'm going to bring that out to about here roughly. And this obviously is going to need to be edited and go up a little bit more. So I'm going to bring this whole thing up to about here roughly. May need a bit of a taller roof. And then what I can do, I can bring in the line just about here. Maybe a little bit taller before I go and do that line. Yeah, that looks about right. So I'm going to do that line just above the character's head. I'm just going to move it just a little bit more. And then I can bring this out just a little bit to about there. So now that's that kind of shape almost done. So what I want to do is I'm going to come into the bottom here. Since you're not going to see underneath it, I'm going to get rid of these faces. And again, I'm going to put another edge loop in here, and I'm going to bring that down to about here roughly. Now I'm going to select these sides here, here and here. Go top view, and I'm going to press E and an S and bring it out. Line these back up. Just making sure these are lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that back in a little bit more. Just so it brings a nice little bevel more or less for the bottom wall. So that needs to come in there, and these definitely need to come back. So I'm going to select these vertices bring that back to about here, just so it straightens it up. Bring this one back as well. And go for the top one. Bring that back. Just to make these as straight as I can. Make those as straight. Again, this needs to come back a little bit more. Just so it gives it that little bit of an edge here. And then I can go back into edge mode. Select these and bring it up. Just a little bit. Just so it kind of tapers down. I'm going to make this. So I'm just going to bevel this. Just a little bit. It's probably going to need, I'm going to try on 2 segments maybe. Just so it rounds that corner a little bit maybe. May need a few more segments. So that should do it. And again, let's go from this side as well. So 2 segments. So it just rounds that bottom corner. So that's pretty much that shape that I wanted to do now. So we've kind of got this shape. I'm ignoring the bell tower for now because I'm going to add that in a later date. But what we've done now is created the front, and this is also going to be the back as well. So what I want to do now is with this, I want to make these parts here just so they're done, and then I can just duplicate the whole thing and move it to the back. Then I can work on this front little bit here, and then do the side walls and slowly make it from there. So what I'm going to do is just do these bits. So looking at it, got one little one, then a big one. So 2 big, 3, 4, 5 big. And it kind of goes into these 2 little, almost M shapes. They kind of curve, like that. It's kind of curvy. So I'll see if I can emulate that. So what I do, I pop that back over to the other window. And I'm going to make those little things. I think the best way to make them, I could probably put geometry down here and extrude, but that'd probably be quite a few polys. So what I'll do is move that out of the way, create another cube, bring it up. I'm going to put that in position just here. So I'm just going to put that in position and set the origin. So this is going to be that first kind of slat on the roof. So I'll bring that down. They're not that thick, but I'm going to make it probably about that. Yeah, that looks about right. Obviously it needs to be a bit smaller so it's wide, but it's not long. So probably going to need to edit that, but I'll edit that. What I do, if I just put them in place, then I can edit them as I go. So if I put this here, I'll pop that there. And that one's going to need to be smaller. So how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. So I'm probably not going to do all 7. So So I'm going to make this smaller, but first I'm going to duplicate it. Just so I've got the same size and I can just go ahead and change it when needed. So I'm going to bring that to about here. Bring that in. Again, I think that's a bit too thick, so I'm going to make it a bit thinner. And I'm going to go to there. And the edges can just come here and here. Bring that up. Probably about there. That looks about right. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but at least it's going to be close to what I want. So now that's kind of the right sort of size. What I want to do, I've noticed obviously down here where I've made that extrude, it's gone a bit haywire. So as you can see, it's gone a little bit haywire. So I want to bring those together. Just fix these vertices. Just fix them a little bit. Just so I don't have to go in and manually weld them later. Yes, it's just where I've extruded it, it's gone a bit crazy. But that's fine, I can easily fix that. Bring those together. There should be a nice straight line down the middle there. Just to make sure, I'm going to go into here and just do something like that. Okay, that should be fine now. Put that up there and go back to this tile. So set origin to surface and just keep going with it. So that needs to come back to here. Just so it's the right size really. There you go, that's kind of the first one done. So I'm going to duplicate this again. Let's give it the second one. So the second one's a bit longer. So I'm just going to bring that here. Needs to be a bit thinner. So I'll make that a bit smaller. About there. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring that just here. What I want to do is bring that there. And I'm going to bring that down. And just back to about there. So it's nice, it's quite nice and long. I'll bring it up a little bit more. So obviously it's longer than that one, but it's not super long. So I'll bring that probably to about there. Maybe a bit more. There, I think. It's just a rough guess. Just bring these slides back in. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, set the origin. And I'm going to duplicate that one because these are the same. Just make sure I'm putting it in the right place. So I think one more of those, then maybe the small one again. So can I squeeze one more in? Probably not. Let's try and do this little one. Put this little one right at the end here. Yeah, so it's not going to let me... I can fit another small one in. So that's what I'm going to do, just put another little one in there. So that's that bit more or less done now. Just make sure that everything's lined up the way I want it to line up. And bring that down to here. Bring that down. Just so it looks quite good, really. Okay, now that looks fine from what I can see. Now I need to do those little M things that sort of curl in. So I wonder if I could do that with a line. Maybe. Let's try it with a curve. So let's try maybe Bezier. That's just a line. Yeah, that's not going to work. So I think the best way to do those is going to be a plane and then extrude that plane. So if I do a plane, so if I do that shape, so sort of curves, so I'm going to use this as a guide. So I bring that to here. It's going to need middle. I'm probably going to need to add some more. Probably better ways of doing this, but this is the way I know how to do it, so this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm just going to bring this up. Just trying to match the shape more or less. So it kind of goes like that. And it needs another one down there. The beauty about this, I can just add some more geometry in just to get it to that curve that I like. Okay, so that needs to come down to there. Bring that in, bring that in. Just so it kind of comes in. May need one more perhaps, sort of here. No, I think that's good. Kind of does it. Kind of curves quite nicely. So I'm going to make another one. Yeah, so that's quite a nice curve now. So all I want to do is duplicate that. Bring it there. And then do this. So it's kind of up. Yep, that looks fine. That looks about right. Obviously, what I'm going to do is I will join these two together. So I'll join them together properly. So I'll join those vertices at the centre. So that's one piece. And it will need shrinking down, but that's kind of the start of what I want. So I've got a nice sort of curvy M. And then what I can do, I can duplicate that again. And then I can just shrink the whole thing then. So these two, join those and join those. So that's just one. Because I'm going to solidify this to the centre. So that looks about right. So I can come over to here. And obviously way too big, but at least we have the shape. As long as we have the shape, we can work with it. So I'm just gonna draw this side in. About there. And it's way too wide, so whole thing can come into here. So it needs to come into about there. Just bring it there a little bit. Bring it to the middle. Again, it's a bit too tall because they're not that. So it's probably about there, roughly. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, now we can get on with this little bit here. I'm just going to match it up. Just so it looks like it actually is growing from this tile. I need to bring that forward a little bit. I think that yeah, that needs to come down a little bit more, but let's come down to about there. That's a nice kind of shape that we've got there. So I think, see what it looks like with the solidify on it. So I'm going to make that a little bit thicker, but put that 0. Maybe, yeah, perhaps about that. That looks about right. Needs a little bit of smoothing, but I can do that. So let's smooth this over. So shade smooth. Go into the normals. Let's try 95. And then we can go down. So that's about 70. It's not exactly, I mean, it is rounded, but you know, I think that's more or less because you're going to see it from this distance, so you're not going to see too much detail on it. So I'm not too worried. So maybe bring it down a little bit more. Yeah, I think that should be fine. So now we've got that side done, we can do it the other side. So I'm going to set that to surface, just so it's in the middle there. And then I can select each one of these, including that, and I can join those together, duplicate it, and flip it. And it's just a case of putting it into the right place. So about there, make sure it's all correct, which is not. Just bring it over a little bit. There you go. So now that's looking more like what we did, what we need for this build. So all we've got to do now is the two that come down here. So I'll do those two next. I'm going to do it in the same method as I did these. Just do I may do just 2 planes and just bump them up a little bit, because I think that'd be a lot easier. So if we do another plane, so I'll just come in here and do a plane here. I'm going to do it from the top view, bring it over, bring it across, and bring it up. So looking at the image, it comes to about comes from here, maybe there actually, and then kind of comes down at an angle, so sort of like that angle. So I may have to do the bottom one first. Let's see. So if I do the bottom and work backwards, that should work. So it overhangs by a little bit, so about that much. And then that can come down to here. I think that's about right. More or less. As long as it's more or less what I want it. It's going to be too long, so I think it's going to be there. About there. Of course, this one needs to come on top of it. So I'm going to make that a little bit longer. So there and there. Yep, that looks about right. That's a nice... And all I've got to do is extrude them a little bit. And then do the bottom bits. So if I pop these two together... Join them. And then do the solidify. I won't do an offset. Don't know why it does an offset. Make them a little bit thicker. So about there. Bring them up a little bit. Back a little bit. Yeah, that should work. So I just need to sort out that bit there. And then underneath here, but we shall do that in a second. So I'm just going to apply that. Come up to this. Make sure it's fairly straight. Bring it up a little bit. I'm just going to connect that into the wall. And then pop it into place. And then sort out the width. So bring that into here. So again, I think it doesn't really overlap, so that can go dead on there, and that can go dead on that line. So it only overlaps at the front, not the sides. Now what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to come to the front. I'm going to do an extrude to about here. And I'll just make the little base for this to sit on. So this can come down to bring that to about there. Again, that needs to come down a little bit, I think. Just so that's sitting on top. And obviously because this is still mirrored, I've got it the other side as well. So it makes life a lot easier. So now what I can do is duplicate that. Flip it over. And bring it across to here. And pop that into its place. I may need to edit it a little bit this side. So I may need to make it a little bit thicker, these two, but I think that works for now. So yes, I think that works. So that's the front part pretty much done now. So as you can see, I've kind of got the right shape here. So I've got this kind of shape. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So the bell tower I'm not going to do until later. But the next stage is going to be these bits here. But I think looking at here, see we've got a little bit in here. So these are not open. So what I may have to do is just create a little plane just to go in here. So I'll do that now as the last kind of little bit that I need to do. So I'll bring that in here. There we are. It's probably going to be easier to do it as a plane, isn't it? Probably. So let's do a plane. And I'm going to do it to view. So I'm going to pop that here. So I'm just going to make these little triangles again. So I bring that in. And squeeze it down. Yeah, pretty much fine. So as you can see, these both sides are off a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. As long as it works for what we need it to do, I don't really mind. So these can probably be put at the centre. So I'm just going to do a little triangle here and here. It's definitely going to need a couple of lines put through it. So I'll put that up there. And now that'll probably give me what I need to do. I don't know why that's not working. I may need to remake that plane actually. So get rid of that. Sometimes there's little bits of errors. Okay, so we'll do that as view and bring that over to here. So we'll make this like that. So there we go. So I know that's going to need, what I'll do, if I do the edges before I do anything else to it, I think that should work a lot better. Okay, so that comes in about there. Come on, about there. And I'm going to bring that in as well. And that can come up. And then come in. Now I can kind of see where the other bits need to go. So I think that's fine. So I'm going to try and merge that now at the centre. Bring that down. I think I need one more line here. There you go. Yeah, I think that works. That sort of works. That'll do for this. I'll do the surface, and I'm going to solidify that as well. Doesn't need an offset. Just going to put it just there. Now I'm going to duplicate it, bring that across. To that one just there. Make sure that's where I need it to be. Almost. Just lining it up. Now I can just make this just make sure I've got it right basically. Yeah, that's pretty much done. And it's going to need something under there as well. Okay, that looks fine. For some reason the modifier is turned off. Could be what's wrong with it. So now I've got these. I'm going to go this side again. And I think these are... Just double check. No, I think for some reason the modifier didn't take to these. So I'm just going to separate them temporarily. Going to set it to the surface. I'm going to re-add that solidify. Okay. Make them a little bit bigger. Auto smooth. Should do it. Okay, let's apply those. I'm going to bring those over here and then I'm just going to duplicate the whole thing. That's better. So, forward just about there. Of course they need to come about there. Yeah, that looks fine. So now we can bring these together. And then I can duplicate that. Bring it aside. Flip it over. Flip them round. And then put them into place. There we go. That looks better. So now we've got that part done. So now what I can do is, so these bits are done now. I'm going to add these little things, but that's just a cylinder, so I could just put that on top. That's going to be quite easy to do, quick and simple. So I'll just make a couple of cylinders. So I'm going to do that along the y-axis, so do it by 90 degrees. Bring it over. There we are, bring it back. And now I can do some scaling. So bring it right the way down. Gonna need a bit more scaling, but you get the idea. So I'm gonna scale it down a little bit more. Yep, that should be right. So I'm just scaling it in this axis now. Bring it right the way back. So I think they need to come forward a bit. No, they can stay there. have a look at the reference image. Yeah, I think that's fine. So I'm going to just duplicate that. Again, like I said, I'm not making that chapel, I'm just using it as an inspiration. So bring that to there. There we are. That's pretty cool. Grab those two and duplicate them again. You join them, then duplicate them. Just makes things easier. Bring them over. Bring them in. Back a little bit. Just a little bit. There we are. So now they're both sides, and I can join these up. Just join those. One more thing, just set the origin. Let's reset the origins. I always like resetting the origin just so it's more or less central. That's more or less done now. So last thing I want to do is bring it onto this. Bring it quite central. And then just... So now we've got that the nice front bit here. We will need to do some more to it. So we will need to do this part here and then cut through both of them. But that will be in the next video. So I'll be making this bit here and then doing the boolean through it. But for now we've got this. I can now save this. So I'm going to save this as a chapel. So that's now saved. And then I can put all these little bits together. And then I can just simply duplicate this for the back. But that'll be a couple of videos from now. So the main next video will be this part here. Making this part. And then it'll be the bell tower. And then I can go ahead and make the side walls and the windows. That's it for now.